Hello, skeptics. Nebraska preacher Hank Kunneman's latest fundraising twist involves an urgent plea to buy land for his ministry, claiming divine guidance. Initially seeking $3 million within a week, Kunneman later backpedaled, citing divine advice that the purchase wasn't necessary. The abrupt change left many wondering about his true intentions. While some may find this tale amusing, it's a concerning example of religious grifting, with Kunneman's congregation potentially being taken advantage of for his financial gain. This article is entitled "A Preacher Urged His Church to Donate $3 Million. Then He Changed His Story," from The Friendly Atheist by Hemant Mehta, published September 11th, 2023. Now, I'm sure you have a take on this, Jimmy. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think this is just sad, and it's more of the same grifting from religious organizations and so-called leaders that we've seen so many times before. Uh, First of all, my question is, why do people accept this kind of thing from religious leaders? Would they accept it from their friends or their siblings or their employer? I mean, all I would need is one eye opener in which I realized I had been conned or stolen from. And not only would I cease to ever trust that person again, but it would force me to further question all future endeavors that are even remotely similar to that one. Um, we see this all the time too in cases of child abuse. I mean, would not one child abuse at any of our kids, or excuse me, one example of child abuse at any of our children's daycare force the place to close? Most likely, but not at a church, right? We keep giving these people money. Um, and I honestly feel sorry for the kind of people that not only fall for this, but don't recognize that they've been taken advantage of. And when it comes to this guy asking for $3 million, and then all of a sudden, what, God just changed his mind, or was he wrong? One thing is for sure, there are some very desperate and mentally abused people who have obviously suffered some harsh indoctrination or feel like they have no other options, who just give a lot of money to a con artist. Um, I think that's where I want to stop now, or for now. I want to see what Kelly's thoughts are on that.
You mentioned what kind was God wrong about the real estate deal? It made me wonder too. I started thinking about that. What kind of real estate deal would be so bad that even God couldn't fix it? That even God had to pull out of it. I mean, it's only $3 million. What's that to God? That's just a pittance, right? To the supreme. Look at Rome. $3 million is just a pittance. I think we can all see that. So what was wrong with the property? Was there like an open gate to hell? What was going on there? Was there something? Was it full of rusty old iron chariots and God couldn't get rid of them? What was going on there? I have so many questions about it, and I think we all know what actually happened was he I think he was only able to raise 1.2 million was what the deal was, and so because he didn't get the money he needed, it turned out to be a bad deal. I think that's what it was more about than anything else. So I'm sure something that he'd like to say about this instead of just introducing the story. I can see the smoke coming out of his ears. What do you got for us, Infidel?
Well, I have to say that Hank's message appeared to be keep on believing. Don't let your eyes and your brain deceive you. If it seems I'm wrong, God's testing you. Just keep on giving. And of course, there might be a side of real estate law is complicated, even for God. Well, I also had to wonder what he spikes the communion wine with. I did watch the 90-minute video where they pimped out for their land offering, and I got to admit, it was pretty painful even in 2x. It was a little more than a 90-minute infomercial in front of a live studio audience. I couldn't help but think people got up Sunday morning to go to church for that. But I do wonder if it's a little bit judgmental to notice the cost of the jewelry that they paraded around by the servants of God, and they're doing all they could for God, and maybe it was a little judgmental, but I'm okay with that. And God giving His prophets prophecies with right-wing propaganda built into it. The beware the Chinese and their conniving ways, being used by the devil to buy the land. Yeah, I think you're right, Kelly. I think it had more to do with not being able to raise the funds. But the truth is, using an Acme product might have actually increased the believability of the act. It really was that bad. Now, when it comes to prophecies, as you said, his connection to God is more than a little faulty. He's fluent and screwing up in many areas. His God says one thing, then Hank says he said something else entirely. Oftentimes they're both wrong. Hank's not new to the shifting con game. God routinely changes his mind in Hank world. Hank's rendition of the Christian God is more like Loki, the trickster. Maybe that's the sell. Hank's God is about as decisive as a 3-year-old in a candy store. Who knew that God was the OG gaslighter? It's just ridiculous. Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up God living in Hank's world, because this is not the first time that God has changed his mind when it comes to Kuhneman, by the way. In 2021, Kuhneman claimed that after God told him that Donald Trump would win the 2020 election, God then changed his mind, informing Kuhneman in a November 4th dream, this is 2020, that Joe Biden, who was actually the devil, would win. God wanted people to think that the prophets were wrong and that God was off working out the issue on his own time. A June 11th, 21 article by Newsweek by Jason Lemon, Christian prophet claims God didn't restore Trump yet to make people doubt prophecies. So why is God such a trickster? I thought he wanted people to believe in him and avoid going to hell. Well, I don't believe in God and I don't believe Kuhneman. The Vatican has $3.9 billion and a bulletproof Pope mobile. Maybe Ken, is it Ken? I'm sorry, did I get the name wrong? Hank Kuhneman? Yeah, maybe Hank should be asking for more, since his meager $700,000 net worth that he conned from his congregation is obviously not enough for him, particularly when it comes to Christian preachers compared to Kenneth Copeland's $300 million fortune and Joel Osteen's $100 million fortune. This is honestly just sad, terribly unfortunate. It reflects the worst of us as people, and those of us who become predators that target the weak and vulnerable, which is how religion thrives. I mean, this whole thing is about this congregation wanting to give this guy money so that he can build a better church and use this land to do God's work. But if they're in such plight, why couldn't God just help them through that? Why did he have to hire a grifter to collect money, then to change his mind? And I will say, on a lighter note, I recently bought a house in New York, and it was hell, okay? It was the challenge of my lifetime, and I think maybe God was behind the sale, because he would have to be with his bad real estate advice. Kelly, take it home.
Yeah, you said a lot there, and I agree with most of it. One of the things that I noticed too in the speech, and I don't know if you guys picked up on it, but did anybody pick up on the racism in the speech? I'm talking about the reference to China. Somehow it was bad that, it was like he was using China as the villain because some Chinese company wanted to buy the property and he had to keep the Chinese from owning this part of America for the good of God or something. And it really, really came off racist. And I was wondering if Hank Kuhneman's God is racist and he doesn't like the Chinese, or maybe he just doesn't like the Chinese financing real estate. I'm not sure what was going on there, but Hank went straight there. The Chinese are bad and they shouldn't own property. And I don't really think God cares who buys real estate. Does he? I mean, should he? Does God hate the Chinese like Hank Kuhneman apparently does, and a lot of his right-wing followers do? There's so much to talk about there. And I don't know, because I don't talk to God like Hank Kuhneman does. Or does he really talk to God? You're going to say something, Jimmy?
I do. And forgive me for stepping over you. I didn't mean to.
No.
Cut you off. But there is, in recent months or recent years, really, some reporting that China has been intentionally buying real estate to place itself close to government buildings and U.S. military bases. So that is a theory. And I wonder if he was just trying to relate it there. I just don't see the connection, though. When he says Chinese, he was probably referring to the Chinese government, if that was indeed he was talking about. But I do believe that, yes, delivered that way, there is an element of racism. And
There was
I honestly don't think that his congregation probably minded, considering, if I will, my own biases toward, I guess, right-wing Christian nationalists. I just have them pegged automatically as somewhat bigoted people. And I
You know,
think that you're right there.
I would even bet that not only did they agree with them, that they would also agree that thinking that way isn't even racist. How
Right.
could that even be racist?
Right.
So yeah, that's the sad part, is that they don't even recognize the racism when it's happening. And I've experienced that with other right-wing evangelicals in the past. It's kind of weird and sad in a lot of ways. So, Infidel, do you have something else you wanted to add? You look like you did.
Yeah, well, I've got to say that I think you both are dead right on the racist aspect of this whole Chinese angle. It's just an easy sell. It's another one of those things that I think they're preconditioned to think, okay, they're the enemy. Because, you talked about you didn't think God cared about, what nationality bought something. Well, churches for decades now, God bless America, God bless America, America's special, America's, this city, shining city on a hill, all these different things, and all this historical racism that goes along with it. It's kind of like a pre-baked message. I mean, why mess with what works? Jimmy, you mentioned that you pretty much presume a certain level of bigotry when you deal with evangelicals, and it's hard not to. Coming from that background and knowing where I came from, it's difficult to presuppose you getting through, because there's so much that you don't even realize that you're being conditioned to. It's not like you go, oh, damn, I hate these people, or I don't like these people, or I'm better than these. No, it's not that. It's the same thing of, oh, they're fine, but anytime you start labeling anyone you start digging big holes. You start saying there's someone else, they're other, they're not us, they're not we, they're them, they're somebody other. And that's what he's appealing to here. And unfortunately, it's far too common. And it's something we see because it's such an easy draw, and it works time and time again. Oh, they're going to do this. The devil's going to take this away. It doesn't matter how many false prophecies. You just need one that's right. Throw yourself an easy one out there, and hey, well, see, he told us this was going to happen, so here it is. So forget the next 20 that are wrong, because you know what? It sounded good. It tickled our ears right now, and that's what I'm going with. What feels good? And Jimmy?
Well said. I have nothing more to add on this. So I think this was a really good discussion, and I appreciate both of you guys. Kelly, you're muted.
I think you're muted.
Yeah, I pulled the Johnny P. Angel there. I don't have much to add either, except that I totally agree with you that I don't understand how when somebody like Kunneman has put up a whole long list of failures, that his followers still follow him. They still believe the things that he says, that he was still able to get $1.2 million when he wanted it, when he asked for 3. It just blows me away, And Phil, do you have something?
Yeah, well, one thing I did want to point out is, and it is puzzling, I think, in some ways, at least on an intellectual basis, for all of us to understand, why do they keep falling for the same thing over and over again? But the truth is that we're starting with a religion that starts out with Jesus saying, "Surely I come quickly." That's been 2,000 years. So if you want to talk about being able to buy a line of goods, let's start there. Sorry, Kelly. I just wanted to throw
don't be sorry for jumping with that. That was fine. But yeah, that's the one that gets me, and we see it all, not just Kunneman, but so many people in the evangelical world that are just keep pulling that wool over the eyes of their followers over and over and over and over again, and still getting away with it. I don't get it. I just honestly don't understand it. But that's what it is. And this was a great talk. I really appreciated you guys being here with me. If you'd like to see more from the nonprofits, you can catch it right here.